Hello and good day. Welcome again to EDUC 7 Assessment in Learning 2. At this point of time, this will be our last discussion for this course. Yes, so before we started this discussion, let us recap some of the topics we covered. First of all, I do not want you to forget about authentic assessment. When we talk about authentic assessment, we want to go beyond the classroom. Whatever we make our students do in their activities, what we wanted them to do is something that they can apply in the real world. Another thing is the performance-based assessment. Again, these two are interrelated, but they are both different from each other. Performance-based assessment are or is the umbrella for the authentic assessment. Performance-based assessment can be traditional or authentic. Okay, so what are the examples of performance-based? It can be process-oriented or product-oriented, like writing a poetry. What else? For example, doing a certain product, reciting, debating, or anything that lets the students perform their competencies. Okay, so last topic that we will be having is about the assessment of one's teaching practice. Of course, we assess our students. But the thing is, do we assess ourselves? So that's what we are going to talk about this day. So, from time to time, do you reflect upon yourself as to how you are in your everyday living? I want you to think about it. Are you doing good? Are you depressed or stressed or anxious about what your life will be? But here's a good thing. Do you know that reflecting is a one healthy way of speaking to yourself? I mean, this is your way to connect with your inner self, with the soul that you have inside, and at the same time, to become a better person. Pero wag masyadong, sobra, iba na yun. Okay, you have to seek help to your a psychologist. Okay, so self reflection is healthy, especially if it makes us improve ourselves. So how you are right now, I wanted you to think about that. So moving on, reflective practice is one of the major components that a teacher should do, even though he or she is already reflecting on or about the student's performance. Of course, he or she as a teacher should reflect like, am I doing good as a teacher? So reflective practice is an ability to reflect on the actions that you have, like what you are doing in the classroom. Is it good? Is it enough? Or there some lapses? Studying your own experiences, like you reminisce what's happening in your classroom. Is it conducive? Does it make your students wanted to learn something more? It is also a great way to increase the confidence. Okay, not only of the students. Here's the thing. I know that the students should increase their confidence, but also the teachers. There are many teachers that has this kind of dilemma that they feel intimidated by their students. So, in that case, reflective practice is one good way to overcome that. And then, it offers a teacher a thorough understanding of their classroom dilemmas and gives a new way of teaching. Like, for example, you realize that your classroom is better when there is a group activity versus the individual activity. Like, you see, oh, they perform much better if they do this. You see, that's self-reflection. You will only be able to discover that if you self-reflect, not only about yourself, but also to the classroom you are teaching in. So there is what we call reflective cycle. The question is, ma'am, how should we reflect on ourselves? Right? Ang gano'n naman yan, pakiramdam eh. Although, I think it can be overlapping, can be very random. I think this cycle will help us to organize more our thoughts and ideas about the teaching. Okay, so Graham Gibbs created this cycle that promotes or that illustrates how a teacher can think or can reflect about how he or she performs, not only with a teacher, sorry, but at the same time with the performance of the students. So it allows them to perform better and improve for the future. So what are these cycles? The first one that we have here is what we call description. So description answers what happened. Ano ba nangyari sa classroom ko kanina? Bakit kaya ang tahimik? Bakit kaya walang sumasagot? Okay, we ask that. And then, feelings. What were you thinking and feeling? Am I comfortable with that silence? Am I happy that this silence is happening in the classroom? Evaluation. What was good and bad about the experience? So, when the students are very quiet, the good thing about that is that you're not irritated with the noise. That's good. But the bad thing is that they are not very participative in terms of answering your questions, right? So analysis. What sense can you make of the situation? So you now look at the deeper side of the situation. Are they hungry? Are they still sleepy? Or my way of energizing my students, is it not enough? Okay, that's analysis. Conclusion. What else could you have done? Like, should I make games in my motivation for them to be hyped a bit about the discussion? Okay. And then action plan. If it aroused again, what would I do? Like, there's again another silence. If that experience happens again, I think I have to do this. I think I have to improve the classroom. I think I have to create more activities. I think I have to call names, things like that. Okay? And then again, when you overcome it, there comes again another experience that will happen in your classroom. You know, inside the classroom, it's an everyday, different or unique experiences, and you will never run out of situations where everything will be perfect. I tell you, no class is perfect. It is just a matter of enjoying and learning and having fun with what you are doing. Okay, so again, it's description, feelings, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and action plan. That is a good way of reflective practice. Hindi tayo hihinto doon sa naisip niya lang na, hala, ang tahimik. My class is very quiet. Okay, then the next day, my class is very quiet. You're not doing anything. You're just here with the feelings part. Okay, remember you have to do something about it. You have to evaluate. You have to analyze. And the most important thing is to make action. Okay? And that's a bad attitude of a teacher if he or she doesn't do anything and he just throw tantrums to his or her students kung siya naman talaga yung problema. Diba? We're already in the 21st century. And we have to think about the things that would make our students be engaged and have fun with class. Okay? So, let's go with the first part, which is reflective practice using learner attainment data. Okay, ito na yung may mga computation tayong nagaganap. Because we are using data. And when there's a data, especially if it's the medical, remember, we are in a class where students have to be graded either through alphabets or numbers, but still you have to compute that, right? So there is a basis with the reflective practice that you have. it's not just yung parang nakikita nyo lang na observation lang. You can use the students' scores. So, it pertains, the learner attainment data pertains to the evidences and results of various assessments, quizzes, exams, what else? Seat works, those things that you score. And you document it, and this shows the progress or achievement of your students. So, number one is the learner's test scores. I know it's too obvious that the learner's test scores are the only basis, or sometimes the most commonly used basis, to see if the student is really doing things or not. Like, for example, in our experience nowadays in our school, we only have, or most of the students choose or chose the offline modality. So we don't have any choice but to reflect our teaching in regards to the scores that you're getting. Is this student really learning something from my class? Did he or she really read what I've written on the learning guide? Diba? So that's it. So how should we get the learner's test scores? It will be through item analysis. So what is item analysis? It is a process of examining the learner's response to each item. Like, what do they get, or how many got the correct answer for this question? Okay? Ito yung dati, yung mga elementary days, high school days, where you have to raise your hand in order, and then someone will count, and then, okay, number 1, dalawa yung nakatama, number 3, lima yung nakatama, and such, hanggang matapos kayo hanggang 50 na, ngalay na yung, ngalay na yung kamay mo kapag napunta pa sa'yo yung maraming mali, o kaya yung maraming tama, yung mga ganon. So, ganon siya. Now, the thing is, this item analysis, medyo futile siya kung iisipin ng iba. Kasi parang, ano ba naman yan? Bakit pa kailangan tingnan yung mali at yung tama? But guys, it has an in-depth reason, or there's a bigger reason why we do item analysis. It is for the teachers to know which topic do you have difficulty. For example, number 1 is a question about pronouns. Therefore, the teacher will realize, okay, the students did not learn that much when I teach or when I taught them pronouns. And then number 10, for example, is about concrete and abstract nouns. And then you realize that, oh, there's a lot of students who answered it correct, therefore they really get it. You see, there's reflective practice going on with item analysis. So, it starts based on the TOS, or the table of specification. So the competencies covers for the grading period. So the TOS, to put it simply, are the paper or document that you use before you create a test, especially if it's a 50-item test. But if it's just 10 or I think 20 item, I think you no longer need TOS, because 10 and 20 items are for quizzes, right? And for quizzes, we define quiz as you test a student based or from one topic only. So we use TOS for test, 50 items, and then there's a lot of topics going on or will be part of that examination. So preparing the table of specification, how should we prepare it? First, we have to define it. It is the teacher's blueprint. So what I told you is in constructing a classroom use, it helps what to include and leave out. Remember, as future educators, you do not include everything in your test. It's either the students how do I say it? It's either you will have a difficulty constructing the questions because you include everything, or the students will have a difficulty answering because there's a lot of items involved. Okay, so the table of specification is very important since it gives emphasis with the weight of each topic. Kapag si teacher hindi gumamit ng TOS, medyo unfair ang magiging kalalabasan ng exam. Why? Because TOS presents to us how much weight should you give for each topic? For example, for nouns and pronouns, if you teach this, how many items, okay, should I give to my 50 item dahil sa noun and pronoun na to? Diba? Iisipin yan. So, TOS is very important. Ngayon, the question is, how should we decide like how many items should we put in a TOS, right? So, these are the steps on doing this. So first, you list down the topics covered for inclusion in the test. So, of course, lahat ng mga sinama mo or mga tinuro mo, guys, only include in the examinations the things that you taught to your students. Huwag kayo mag-isama nung hindi nyo naman tinuro. Okay? Pero on part of the students, do not expect that everything will be taught to you. Okay? Like spoon feeding. Remember, yes, the teacher teach the concept, but it is up to you to analyze that. Yung iba kasi parang, yung kumari sa gawin natin example yung math. Maganda example yung math. Yung tinuro lang ni teacher is 1 plus 1. So, 1 plus 1 lang. Edi 2. Gets mo na. Ngayon, sa exam ang nangyari, 2 plus 2. So, sasabihin, hindi naman ito tinuro. Okay? So, you see, it's about analysis. Okay? Same with the concepts in English. If we teach about a short story, for example, the Lost Key, for example. The Lost Key. And then, if suddenly in the exam, another story, and then you will say, hindi naman ito tinuro. Okay, so what we are after is the skill that you have. So, moving on, and then going back with the topics. So, you have to first list down the topics that you taught to your students. Number 2, after the topics, with each topic, you determine the objectives to be assessed by the test. For example, it's noun and pronoun. You write there to identify to identify the difference between noun and pronoun. That's an objective. And then you have verb to form the present form of the verb, something like that. Number 3, specify the number of days spent for teaching a particular topic. Dito na tayo. Ito yung mahalaga. Halimbawa, si noun or pronoun, tinuro mo lang naman ng 1 day or 1 hour. And then, si verbs, tinuro mo siya ng 2 hours. Okay? So, you specify kung ilang oras or araw mo siya tinuro. And then you determine the percentage of allocation of test items for each of the topics covered. So, how? This. Percentage for the topic, total number of days are spent for the topic divided by the total number of days are spent for the whole unit. For example, this is just a good example. Miss Sid Garcia. This is Miss Sid Garcia. And then, she has 10 hours. She has 10 hours to teach pre-Spanish Philippines. This is an example. So, meron siyang 10 hours for the pre-Spanish Philippines. Buong unit na yun. Okay? Buong unit na yung pre-Spanish Philippines. Kasi maraming nakapaloob dun eh. Ngayon, she spent 2 hours in teaching the topic. Okay? She has 2 hours to teach the topic itself. Yung early Filipinos in the society. So, part lang siya. Under siya ng pre-Spanish Philippines. So, what percentage of test item? So, sa 10 hours na nakalaan sa buong unit, ginamit mo yung 2 hours para dun sa isang maliit na topic. So, how should we do this? 2. Ito. 2 is the hours for the teaching a certain topic over the whole unit, which is 10. So, we divide it. It will be 0.2 or 20%. Okay? So, that's the answer. That's how you get. So, 20% ng test item mo dapat ay about sa early Filipinos and their society. Get it? Okay. Then, ang question, so ilan talaga? So, kung 20%, paano natin siya, ang gagawin pala ni Sid Garcia ay 50 items. So, paano ito? You will just do it 50 times 0.2. So, it will be 10 items. So, 10 items ng 50 item exam mo will be about this early Filipinos and their society. Okay? So, that's it. So, this is an example of table for the, how should I say it? Table of specification. So, there's the topic, and then you can also write here some objectives that you put. And as you see, there's knowledge, comprehension, application, and analysis. Pwede din kayo maglagay niyan. Pag knowledge, kasi parang they just identify, and then they comprehend, kailangan maintindihin sila, they need to understand a certain thing, apply, they have to write, analysis, they have to use their critical thinking skills. So that's it. So this is the 10, 10, 10, and 20. And then overall, ito yung number of items. It will be 50. Okay? So you distribute the number of items to the objectives to be tested. I-distribute mo siya ngayon. Kung wari, the early Filipinos na yun, early Filipinos and their society, hahatiin mo ngayon. Kuwari early Filipinos and society yan. Hahatiin mo ngayon, sige, dahil may 10 ako, gagawin ko yung knowledge 2, yung comprehension 2, yung application 1, yung analysis 5. So, 10 yan. Okay? So, ayan, that's how you prepare the table of specification. And then, now, going back. So, okay na tayo sa TOS. We're done doing the TOS, and then we conduct it in the class, and the students were able to answer it. You check it. And it's time for reflective practice. So, you have now to do an item analysis. So, how should you prepare an item analysis? Okay. Before you do it, bago kayo magpataas-taas ng kamay dyan, ganito muna. In preparing the data for the item analysis after you're done conducting the test. So, you already have the results of their exam and the exam itself. So, you need to first arrange the test scores from highest to lowest. Meaning, you need to get who's highest. Kaya siguro meron tayo, diba, after mag-check ng mga students, 50. Papapasa ni teacher, 49, 48. So that it will be easier for a teacher to do the item analysis. And then, after you arrange them from highest to lowest, you have to get the 1/3 of the paper or 1/3 of their papers on the highest part and at the same time on the lowest part. So how should we do this? For example, you have 30 students in grade 7 with a 50-item exam. So here's a student 1 to 30, and then you have to arrange it, of course. So you arrange it like this. So it's 50, 50, 47, and here's the lowest, 9. Now, as what we have said earlier, we have to get the 1/3. So how should we get the 1/3 of 30, right? So you just need to 1/3 times 30, okay? Or what is the answer? The answer for this is 10. Okay, that's the answer. 1/3 of 30 is 10. How did we do this? We just multiply 1/3 times 30. 1/3, ayun yung hinahanap kasi 1/3 daw ng highest score. And then 30, okay, 30 nung overall. Kasi ang student natin ay 30. Okay? Ngayon, yung 10, highest lang at lowest. So, bibilang tayo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the other from lowest, from lowest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that's it. So, that's your, where is it? That's your higher group, and that is your lower group. Ibig sabihin, itong nasa gitna, hindi sila kasali. Okay po? Not everyone's paper will be part. Parang sample lang po siya. The sample of the population is 10, 10, or in total, there will only be 20 exam papers will be analyzed. Okay? Then, number 5 is we need to compute the index of difficulty for each item. So, how should we compute the index of difficulty? What is index of difficulty for? Bakit ba siya kailangan pa i-compute? Dagdag computation lang naman yan. Well, the thing is, you will be able to determine if your question is difficult enough for the student. Is it too difficult or is it too easy? Okay? So this is using the formula given. So let's see. So we have to compute the index of difficulty. For example, in this case, item per item na tayo. Okay na ha? May 20 test papers na. Ibig sabihin, doon sa 20 test papers, bibigay mo rin sa mga bata na magtataas-taas ng kamay. Okay? Ayun na po yun. And then, start na tayo. Item number 1. Okay, so item number 1. Who got the correct answer? That is the NRC. Okay, that's the NRC. From the higher group, kaya si teacher hinahati yan. Yung first row ay higher group and then the other row is lower group. Ganun siya ginagawa eh. So sa higher group, 5 yung nagtaas ng kamay, ibig sabihin 5 yung tamang sagot. So you write 5. And then, from the lower group, there is 2. So, there are 2 students who got it correct. So, you have to total that into 7. So, 5 plus 2, yung lahat overall na nakatama, it is 7. Now, for the TS, you have, that is just the total number of students in the upper and lower group. Ilan ulit ang test paper na i-item analysis? That is 20. So, it will be 7 over 20. Okay? Okay. Let's write that. So, that 7 over 20. So, divide nyo lang. Calculator. You don't need naman na, nyo pa, manual. Calculator. So, the answer is 0. Forget my point. 30. Sorry for the writing. 0.35. Okay, so that's the answer, the 0.35. Now, ma'am, ano naman yung 0.35? Ano naman kung nakuha ko 0.35? There is an interpretation behind that. So, if it's 0.09 to 19 or 0.19, it is poor item. Sabihin, hindi siya okay na question. 20 to 29, fair. 30 to 39, a good item. And then 40 and above, it's a very good item. So, in our part, we got 0.35. Ibig sabihin, dito siya magpo-fall. So, therefore, the teacher constructed a good item for number 1, for test item number 1. Kaya naman, ayan, 0.35, good item. Retain yan. Yung mga ganyang question, ayan yung pwedeng ulit-ulitin. Kasi okay siya for the index of difficulty. Okay, are you getting it? So, okay na siya for index of difficulty. Tandaan po index of difficulty siya. Now, after we were able to identify kung yung question na yun ay mali, doon na siya sa number 2, number 3, doon na iisa-isahin. Malalaman ng teacher kung, parang hindi okay to. Sige, tanggalin ko na to. That is self-reflection. You were able to evaluate yourself kung okay ba yung ginawa mong test or hindi. Okay po? For the index of discrimination, tapos na tayo sa difficulty, discrimination naman. So, here's the formula. Now, how should we do this? Number 1 is the index of discrimination, number of correct responses of the other group, that is CU, and then CL is the lower group, and then the number of students per group. Kanina, ilan yung nakatama sa upper? It's 5. And then, yung nakatama sa lower, it is 2. So, 5 minus 2 is equals to 3. And then, divided to NSG, number of students per group. Ilan sila per group? Hindi total It is 10. So kung ilan sila dun sa group? So 3 divided by 10, ano sagot? 0.3. So therefore, it is a discriminating or a good item. Ma'am, paano na naman niya 0.3? Anong interpretation yan? Hindi po ito ang interpretation ni discrimination. Ito po. Ayan. Iba po ang interpretation for difficulty, iba rin ang interpretation for discrimination. So, para saan naman ba yung discrimination? Ayan naman po yung mga choices. Okay? Doon sa mga choices. So if it's below 0.10, it's poor, 0.19, 0.10 to 0.19, 0.20 to 0.29. I think it should be, it's not below so it's 0.9, 0.8, 0.7. So 0.10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and such. Okay? And then, a while ago, what did we answer? 0.3. So, saan siya magpo-fall? Dito po. Therefore, it is a discriminating or good item. Ayan po yung interpretation of DI. So, another, if it's not what do you call this, in decimal, you can also answer or give interpretation through whole numbers, 81, 61 to 80, 41 to 60, and so on. Okay, so ayan naman yung interpretation niya. Okay, so tingnan natin, ito, doon sa activity sheet, okay, week 17, diba? Ito rin, gagawin nyo rin yan. So you look at number 1. For application, analyze the summarized results of a hypothetical test item analysis. Supply the necessary details to complete the table. So given this, for example, item number 1, there is an index difficulty of 91%, and then the index of discrimination of 11%. Ang gagawin nyo lang naman dyan, you just have to interpret it. Okay? Madali lang po siya. Interpretation, 91, 48, 69, saan siya magpo-fall? Dito po kayo magbe-base. Okay po? Doon sa index of difficulty. Okay po? Dito po kayo magbe-base for percentage. Now, for the index of discrimination, where should we base our answer? Dito po. Diyan, sa discrimination index. Okay? So I hope we're clear about this. So you just need to determine the interpretation for the given percentage or decimal value. And then, for the part 2, you have to do an item analysis given the scores using the procedures I've told you. So, ito si lower group, there are 30. Okay? There are 30 papers or 30 students in the higher group, and there are 30 students again for the lower group. So, ilan sila lahat? So, A, B, C, and D. Ang sabi dito, itemized number indicates correct answer. Ibig sabihin, sino ba dyan yung naka-itemize? Ito po. So, how many got the correct answers? Okay, so the total number of correct answers, you have to determine again the difficulty index. Gagamitin niyo po yung formula na diniscuss kanina. And then, the higher to lower group, higher minus lower group, ayan, tinulungan na kayo dito. And then, you identify the discrimination index. Ito po dito po sa part na to, you just need to subtract. Okay? So, if you listen carefully and if you analyze well the data, it will be so easy for you to answer this. Okay, so the number of students tested, it is 90. But then again, hindi lahat kasama, di ba? Okay, so ang kasama lang talaga overall ay 60. Okay po? So, that's it for your LG week 17. So, we're done. Okay, we're done with the assessment of the students with learner's test score. Okay na tayo sa learner's test scores using the TOS and the item analysis. After nun, we use naman yung non-test data. Ito yung non-numerical value. These are the exams that, or not really the exam, things that we do just like observation, yung mga napapansin lang natin. Okay? So non-test assessments are or is an ongoing process. It gives feedback to students. Like a simple way of praising is already a assessment, though it is non-test. It can be an informal, like just comments, impromptu feedback. For example, in research, when you consult your advisor, the advisor will not really grade you the way you consult. O kaya, kung nga may pinahita ka, sabihin na advisor, ganito gawin mo, ganyan. Hindi naman after nun, degrade ka na niya agad. It's not like that. It's informal. And then, it does not make fixed judgment. Non-test assessment believes that everything is on process and you are just watching how the students, how fast or how progressive that students improve themselves. And then it can also be formal. Paano naman yung formal? Portfolio, the one I discussed to you from the last video discussion, or a journal writing, reflective writing. Okay? So, that's it. Those are the learners non-test. Maraming nakadiscuss doon, but I already discussed it in other video discussion, the samples of the things that we can use for the learners non-test data. Okay? So, whenever we have to, what do you call this? You have to report the assessment to your students. Make sure that this is the way they improve. Make sure that they are really getting your point. Do not make them think that everything is just about grades. Everything is about assessment. Okay, that's clear. But everything is not about numbers and grades. Because learning cannot be there or learning cannot take place if there's no assessment. How would we know that they really learn something, right? So, speaking of reporting, there's what we call students as evaluators. Okay, the students can be evaluators themselves, like how I learned. It's a step back. Before you do something, you stop for a while and think, wait, what should I do with this? What I have done from the past, yung mga LG ko bang pinasa, okay ba yun? Something like that. You think about that. And then you reflect on the strategies and your metacognitive skills, like where and when do you learn best, right? For example, mas natututo ka pala kapag umaga. So, umaga gumising, mas natututo ka pag gabi. Though, it will not be very healthy if you answer at night. It's just about, for me, parang, kasi in classroom, you learn during daylight, right? So, it should be daylight. And their progress as learners. So, it encourages learners to become independent learners and increase their motivation. Kasi in self-reflection, we were able to determine our strengths and weaknesses. We know that we are not good in this part, but we are very good in this part. Like for example, if the teacher asks for volunteer, you already know when to volunteer and when to not volunteer, especially if you know that yourself. So, you also think about you do not depend the way you learn to your friend, to your classmates, or to your teacher. You know that you can do it alone. So, with the guidance of someone. And then, increases your motivation. Because you know yourself, yung alam yung pasikot-sikot kung paano ka matututo. Ito yung dapat yung pinaka-pinofocus natin. Alam natin kung paano tayo natututo. Alam natin kung saan tayo mas okay. Pero wag kayong masyadong ma-pressure kung hindi nyo pa alam sa ngayon. I think you'll go there. Okay? And then it will increase your motivation to learn more. Next, peers as evaluators. Of course, we still need our friends, our classmates, because they are there. Okay? And we have to maximize it. The social skills that we have to showcase it, even in classroom. Because when you go outside, when you go outside the classroom, you have a lot of people to speak with. So, you reciprocally evaluate each other's work. So, si student A, tsaka si student B, they communicate with each other. Parang ang gara nito. Ito naman sa'yo, dapat ayusin mo to. Diba? It's okay. It's constructive, especially if it's your friend. Parang kabisado mo na siya. Though, iiwasan natin dito as teacher, we have to supervise our students for peer evaluators. Mamaya nagdadaldalan lang. Hindi naman sila nag-evaluate. Okay? So, we have to be very careful. And then, it empowers learner to take responsibility because they know that they have the responsibility as evaluator to their classmate or to their friend. Kaya syempre parang, ay, para akong teacher dito i-evaluate ko si ano, di ba? Even in your demo teaching, there are, when I visited Ma'am Borja's class, for example, or your instructor's demo teaching, you have the opportunity to evaluate your classmate, right? Because that is peer as evaluators. And then lastly, our supervisors as evaluators. Of course, the supervisors are the one who have the knowledge or the package na hinahanap natin. When you become a future educator, you should, of course, consult yourself to educator na. Hindi dun sa future educator rin. Kasi sila yung mas nakakaalam kung ano ba yung mas dapat i-improve, ano ba yung mas maganda gawin, and other things. Okay? So that's supervisors as evaluators. So it gives a teacher a high degree of control because at the end of the day, it is a teacher who will give feedback, give grades to the students because it's like teacher is omnipresent, omniscient in the classroom. Parang ganun si teacher. Kailangan alam niya lahat. Kailangan may mata siya sa bawat sulok ng classroom. That's a good skill that you have to learn being a teacher. And then you bring students, you do not just observe. You bring students to higher level of knowledge and understanding. Now, for the short activity for this video discussion, I want you to think like, how important is it to reflect on our teaching learning process? What is the purpose of doing such? Diba? Parang, as a person, is it really important to reflect our teaching learning process? Kailangan na talaga siya? And what is our purpose to do such? Ano bang dapat? Okay? So, that's it for our last discussion. I do hope that you learned something from this, that you are currently working with your learning guides because, as a reminder, we have here on August 13, that will be your deadline of submission for the activity sheet week 10 to 17. Alam mo, 10 to 17, dami naman nun. Not really. You remember, yung mula sa 10 to 12, multiple choice lang yung pinasagutan ko, right? Mabilis lang yun. And now, the 13, 14, 15, and 16 is part of your demo, right? So, demo na siya. And then your week 17, ayun yung finlash ko kanina. So, I know that you will be able to submit it on time. August 20 is the last call for submission. Deadline is August 13, pero cut-off is wala na akong tatanggapin after August 20. Kasi I believe that there are students who has some excuses, some valid excuses that they are not able to do things. Okay, so it's okay, but then there will be deductions. Just to be fair to those who are very punctual and doing his or her work as a student, as a full-time scholar in PCCM. And then on August 26, it will be the last day for your teaching demo. So again and again, I wanted you to do your best with your teaching demonstration every Tuesday, Monday, Thursday, and Wednesday. Okay, so it will cover your final exam. That's your final output. We no longer have any exam on the finals. Just your demo. And then your week 13 to 16, you also need to submit it by the use of teaching demo. Okay, wala pong papel as in teaching demo lang. Kaya naman, if it is your schedule time to do or to to present a demo, you have to present because that's a very important thing. Okay, it's your final. So once you fail to submit it, especially the attachments, It's the teaching demo plus the attachments. Okay? Without the attachments, what will I check? Okay, so these are the 3 dates that you have to remember in your final examination with the deadlines and the last call. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for your time listening to this video discussion. I hope that you learned something and I enjoy discussing a lot of things. I do hope that on the next semester, there will be a lot more students to watch or to come with me or to discuss with me these different topics in assessment in learning. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask me. So thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.